This program is brought to you by the Center for a Sustainable Today.
Hi, I'm Mader. I created the website planeta.com back in 1994. I'm here at the Ecotourism Conference in Portland, Oregon. Just won the 2010 Innovation Award. To me, ecotourism makes no sense if we don't deal with culture, heritage, and particularly with native peoples. It's vital that we respect what is local and what is, in fact, ancient. And indigenous peoples have often been marginalized by society at large and often by tourism. They're considered a product or an attraction instead of valued partners. So the work that we've been doing in the past few years has been to show people how these tours can be reliable, trustworthy, and just a heck of a lot of fun. And so indigenous tourism really is making an incredible debut here at this event. The internet is used as a tool of communication in ways that continue to surprise and amaze us. In other words, we never really thought about texting. We never thought about Twittering 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So we have to be continually prepared to be surprised. And we know, non-indigenous and indigenous people alike, that we need to be adaptive to change. Indigenous folks that I've been working with in Mexico, in Australia, in New Zealand, it really breaks down upon age groups. The people who are under 20 in Oaxaca, they can use a 300-year-old traditional loom or a 6-month-old cell phone. Now, I don't know about you, but I get really stuck on both contraptions. And the cell phone in particular. You know, the new technology is something that younger folks are much more easily able to use and incorporate into their lives. Now, the question I would ask is how can we use these new technologies, not just to get information out, not just to promote, but to connect families? So maybe, for example, in Oaxaca, Mexico, maybe the grandmother can't use a cell phone or type on a keyboard or send an email, but she knows the family's way of creating mole, or of preparing corn, or of speaking in the Zapotec language. Can some of this be recorded by her grandchildren, or her nephews, her nieces, etc., and then be put online? And that is something that to me is exciting, that we could be using the internet as a way of forging ties between generations in a family. We could be using the internet in ways that could be educating the traveler beforehand. Because the fact is, if you're going on a foreign trip and you see this elaborate and fairly confusing indigenous dance or ritual, you might feel a little bit unsure of what's happening. If we have the information online, if we have the indigenous people explaining the significance and the meaning of this in ways that they would like to convey, this is information that is very valuable for the traveler. I was just saying it was very difficult for me to find information about indigenous tourism here in Oregon. And some of the problem that we're having here is a question of language, that indigenous tourism is not really the key words that are used here. Now, if I look up Salmon Nation, all of a sudden I find out everything I'm looking for. But how do I know Salmon Nation? So all of these are good questions that we need to be kind of a little bit humble by. You know, we don't, you know, what I would define things as, you know, you might define in a different manner. But how do we create this communication? Internet is a great tool. It's not the only tool. In Oaxaca, where I live, we've been doing a lot with maps, foam boards, and business cards. Because again, there's often a cultural discrepancy between the value of signage. You know, do we have a sign outside the door that says, "I'm an artisan, please come and look at my rugs"? And many people don't put up any signs at all, and the streets themselves are unmarked. So if we use the internet to provide a photo, or use the Google Earth to show people where you can make these purchases, you've enhanced the sales that the indigenous family received, and you've made it easier for the visitor to go and explore these places in a responsible and conscious manner. I was just listening to a wonderful program from Australian radio, a program called Future Tense. And they have a program that was just put online yesterday all about the future of maps. And the fact is that we can create maps in ways that, again, we couldn't imagine 5 years ago. And we can create maps. Anyone can create maps. And we can use Google Earth to produce these layers of information. Now, for example, one of One of my favorite things in the world is food and local food. And Portland is well known for its food carts. Where are the food carts? Now, there's a website and a blog about the food carts of Oregon, of Portland. And they have this embedded layer that you can put into Google Earth to identify the food carts in Portland. Beautiful idea. Excellent idea. We couldn't have done this. We couldn't have imagined that 10 years ago. Can we continue to find new applications for these operations? Definitely. My only caveat in all of this is to figure out how it is we bring the training to locals so that they can put this information online. Now again, this is Web 2.0. It's not necessarily just about me having a website. It's me having the wherewithal and the understanding of how to incorporate these wonderful new toys, these tools. If we can provide the training for folks who are indigenous leaders or artisans or people who provide local food, and so that they can upload this information, all the better.
Would you talk a little bit about language? What does ecotourism mean, for example?
In the Grand Ballroom, they're talking about the global sustainable tourism criteria and the need for a universal language. And while I agree it's one thing that we could aspire toward, I would much rather propose that we learn indigenous languages. Keywords in Maori, Zapotec, Ayuk, Aboriginal languages of Australia. Everything for its own sake? No, but what has meaning? Because as we learn these great new words, or great ancient words, we learn great new insights into the local culture. And I guess that's what I'm after, the local travel experience. We have something called the local travel movement, which really zeroes in on a place. And if we zero in on a place, we find concepts and words that are used in that place and nowhere else.